Hey there, future TeleFunnel masters. I'm AI Craig, your virtual dude to the exciting world of TeleFunnel. Now, I know what you're thinking. An AI talking about phone sales? What's next? Robots doing stand-up comedy. Well, hold on to your headsets because we're about to take your sales game to the next level. But don't worry, I'm not here to replace anyone. In fact, I've got a special guest with me today. The one, the only, the flesh and blood Craig Pretzinger himself.
Well, oh my goodness. That was quite the intro. And I am certainly glad that you're not planning on replacing me anytime soon. And you're a little weird. So, I mean, weirder than normal, Craig. All right.
Insurance dudes are on a mission to escape being handcuffed by our agencies.
How? By uncovering the secrets to creating a predictable, consistent, and profitable agency sales machine.
I am Craig Pretzinger.
I am Jason Feldman.
We are agents.
We are insurance dudes.
Well, let's dive in. Thank you for the great intro. Why don't you fire off the first question, Mr. AI, Craig?
What's the role of dialing specialists in a telefunnel?
So the role of the dialing specialist, I went in a little bit in the last episode when we were talking about where people fit, who fits where, and we're going to talk about that a lot in the moving forward. But let's kind of intro this and frame it. This is an important concept because we have tested many different ways. Well, as many ways as there are likely. Let me take you back to old Craig and even before 2019. So maybe, 2015, 2014, I had in-house dialing specialists making dials, and I didn't do a lot of split testing back then. I wasn't quite at that place where I understood. I was just trying it. And then if it didn't work, I kind of give up. But I did stick with the in-house telemarketers. The focus was on the hiring. It was a very arduous process and it was very time consuming because every Wednesday I would run an interview. We'd get 5 to 10 people would show up at the office. So they'd be in the lobby and I have to move them into the conference room and then run a quick interview and basically get some people on standby, say, okay, you're going to be able to take a spot once one opens up. And inevitably a spot would open up because the people would not last for very long. So it was high turnover, lots of dials. It was older technology. We were calling at night. It was a little different than what we're doing now. But here's the big distinguishing thing that we were doing incorrectly back then that we've realized and now iterated. And I think we've done really well with and understanding the role of the dialing specialist. So I would grab a pencil, write this down if you can. This is important. Write this down. Dialing specialists are sifters. If you're running a telefunnel in your agency, stick that up on the wall everywhere. Dialing specialists are sifters. What does that mean, Craig? What is that? What the heck? Well, we've tested where we had the dialing specialists qualify. We've tested where we've had them gather information, start to input information, and then pass it off. We've tried so many different ways to maximize what the dialing specialist is doing in order to make life easier for the sales producer. Now, here's the issues, because you can probably sense that I was going to have some issues, and I do, some serious issues. Now, having your tele team or your dialing specialists qualify and set up the call is not only unnecessary, but it actually creates problems. Creates problems. How? Don't you want to make life easier for the salespeople? Not exactly. Now, we want to give our sales folks tons of opportunities. In fact, I am happier if transfers are getting missed and everybody's maximized at capacity, doing 10 quoted households a day. We pushed it 10 to 12. So 10 to 12 is totally reasonable. You could talk to anybody that has worked in a call center environment for the Gecko or any of those companies, and they will tell you they do 20. 20. Crazy, right? So really, really important is the fact that they are doing the right activity. Now, think of your process. Think of the sales flow, right? Think of that telefunnel and the things that are happening. We have a dial, we have a contact if it gets answered, we have a transfer, and then we have a quote, and then hopefully a sale, right? 10% of the time we'll have a sale. 90% of the time it works 50% of the time. So we're going to have a sale at the end. Now, we can't just focus on that. Otherwise, nothing happens, right? Anybody who's put the sales numbers and that's all they talk about, you've been there, done that. If you're still doing that, I would consider learning from our experience where the focus is not on the sales, but the focus is on the activity. And then the activity needs to be handed to the right person. The right person needs to own that activity in the same way that I don't own my calendar, right? Somebody else manages my calendar. So if somebody wants to set it up or book an appointment, I don't do it. I say, reach out to Emily. She'll handle that. Right. And then she's the one doing that process. Now, it frees up time because just as an example with the calendar, think of how much time back and forth, added up for the week, added up for the month, added up for the year. It's a lot of time wasted, right? If I could pick up hours here and there that I could then use to optimizing my telefunnel or teaching somebody else how to optimize their telefunnel or whatever, something that's a higher value activity, that's much better, right? Also, try to peel off hours that I can then put into my personal time. And I have that as well, right? Because it can't be all work and no play because that makes Jack a very dull boy. So back to the telefunnel. Now, the dialing specialists we found and what we had them doing, well, originally when it was in my office, they were gathering all of the information. We were cold calling. Now, you can't cold call anymore. You're going to get in trouble. So you don't want to do that, right? Because the amount of dials it requires to do cold calls is insane to get to the sale. You're not going to close 1% to 2% of your leads. You're going to close 0.000000001% if you're scrubbed cold calling. It's just not worth it. So don't do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But let's talk specifically back to your question, Mr. AI Craig, which is the role of the dialing specialist. So what we found as we iterated and got closer to today, back in 2019, we saw it and we realized it. They're sifters. What does that mean, Craig? You said it before. Why are you beating around the bush? Well, because I'm trying to formulate my thoughts on the fly. The point of them being sifters is so that we don't have them do anything except find people that answer the phone and get them over to our salespeople. There's a couple important reasons here. Number one, sometimes the person is such a whirlwind as the calls are coming in from multiple agents, as the person's talking to them, they don't understand what they're talking about right at first. And all of these things are happening, and we don't want to leave it in the hands of a dialing specialist, right? And it doesn't do us much good for them to gather the data because we already have it in the lead, right? All we want is them to confirm their name and number and move it over. So as long as they can do that, it's over. Because the quicker that we move to transfer and then get it to the sales producer, the quicker there's a chance that we're going to be quoted it. And what we found was if they gather the information, we lose a ton. If they gather the information, set an appointment, forget about it. It was just a waste. So we have to get it over to the sales agent, and we need that sales agent keeping that person on the phone and running the quote until they get to the end and close them. That is the key. So the role of the dialing specialist as sifter is to get through all the leads to find the 10 to 20% that actually are going to answer the phone on the first day. Their role is to do the activity that we don't want our sales agents to do, because if we have our sales agents do this activity, they quit. And them quitting when they're good costs us upwards of $100,000 in lost time, lost efficiency, lost sales, all of the stuff that goes into turnover. And it's not just, oh gosh, I used to be like, oh, well, at least I'm saving money on that I'm not paying salary. That's BS. You're paying more because you got to find somebody. You have to train them. It's going to take 3 months before they're typical agent. It's going to take 6 months before they're doing anything. And you may not even know if they're going to be able to write business at that point. We flip that script upside down. And teaser, that will be in this series. And this is going to be a good one. You're going to love it. So we want to take the dials out of the hands of our salespeople. We want to put them in the hands of a dialing specialist. And that dialing specialist is going to give us a multiplier on what we pay them. Now, if you can outsource it, you're going to pay even less than you would in the States. And it doesn't matter if their English isn't awesome. It doesn't matter because they're sifters. So as soon as we understood this and saw and just focused on the numbers, didn't listen to any of the excuses in our minds. Oh gosh, they're going to make the people mad. Oh gosh, they're going to blah, 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 all these things, right? Trust me, we thought of every one of them. I'm sure you could come up with some, and we've negated all of them. The best way to retain your salespeople and get them good results is to have dialing specialists making calls on those leads. The only way.